Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast. My name is Deonte Epps, joined by my best friend, my brother, my co-host, Dane. How are you doing, my guy?
What do you mean by that? Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. Can't complain. Everything is good in Candyland. We just chilling, maxing and relaxing, working. Same old same.
As you
Raising a
said,
kid.
the usual.
Yes, the usual.
That's good
Number
stuff,
5 with
man.
an extra fry and a large Powerade.
A large power
And no
rate.
ice.
What'd you think about Marcus Spears? If you're now listening to us, we had Marcus Spears, ESPN analyst, former NFL defensive lineman, on last week, and man, it was a great conversation. Got a lot of great feedback from a lot of people about it, man. What'd you think about Marcus coming on?
Look, if we could have every episode with some nuggets from the big swagger himself, I think we'd be better off. But fortunately, we had the opportunity to speak with him, and it didn't even feel like an interview. It just kind of just felt like we were just chopping it up. Somebody that you ain't seen in a long time, or somebody that's like, oh, it's like perfect example. We're freshmen and a graduating senior, and then we finally become seniors, and then that senior that we met when we were freshmen comes back during homecoming. We chop it up like, hey, that type of thing. That's what it felt like.
Right.
That's what it felt like. Somebody that you only watched play, you could only dream of sharing the field with them, type of deal. So it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah.
I'm really
Real down
thankful
to
he
earth,
sharing that.
real authentic guy, like the same way he is on television as far as being real and himself. That's the way he was during the pod. So we appreciate Marcus coming on with us. Also appreciate everyone with the great and positive feedback and who enjoyed the episode and stuff like that. One thing we did not get to talk about, Dane, we recently partnered up with the Sports Podcast Network, and we've got a lot of questions about it as to what it means for you, the listener. Not much. You're getting the same content from us. Yeah, you're getting the same
Not really.
content, the same, laughter, everything that we brought you so far in the past 37, and now with this episode, 38 episodes. Still gonna be able to bring on great guests when we can get them. Still gonna talk our nerdy culture stuff, sports, football stuff, um, more in particular football.
We still get to talk with our hands too. We get
Yeah,
to do
talk
all of
with our
this.
hands. That's how I do.
We get to do all of that.
But for us, it's a partnership that we feel like it'll help grow our audience, bring more attention to our podcast. Because we think we're doing a pretty good job, and we've been
Some
doing
more
this for over a
community.
year now. What'd you say?
Some more community.
Yeah, more community, more ears to the pod. That's all we're trying to do, and hopefully, with this partnership, they can help us with great resources and things of that nature to get to where we want to go. So we're now a Blue Wire Hustle sports podcast, and as many of you know, yeah, hustle man. As many of you know, we do have new artwork, new cover art as well. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the new YouTube banners around us. So, yeah, thank you to Blue Wire Hustle for that. And Dane, let's get right into the sports news. The big news out of the NFL. Yeah, the meat and potatoes of sports. Yes. First news in the NFL, heading up to the draft, which is about a month away. Adam Schefter was one of the first ones to report the Dolphins trading their number 3 overall pick to the Niners for the 12th pick, a 2021 third round pick, and first round picks in 2022 and 2023. And I think we had discussed via messages about that third quarterback. And I didn't realize till today, and that's my fault for that they're high on Trey Lance from North Dakota State. And then I thought to myself, and I told you, I was like, man, that seems like a perfect fit for what he's shown and what Mike Shanahan likes to do as far as his play calling, play scheme, and stuff like that. What did you think about the trade?
Heavy offense followed by a consistent, dominant defense. That's taken from somebody who was part of the Sam Houston crew. We got smashed by North Dakota State more times than I can count in the Natty. So we know exactly what that formula for success looks like up there. And it's exactly that. That's not to say that Trey Lance or any of the other quarterbacks that have come from that university aren't capable of carrying the team, but that complementary style of straight under center. We're gonna hand the ball a few times and we're gonna hit you with a play action and bomb it deep. But I was telling you more so, I am hoping, we're not hoping, I'm gambling and saying that the 49ers don't make the right choice again. Um, we've seen before when they've had a top 3 pick and they've, squandered it away. I wouldn't say squandered it away. We've seen what they've done with the top 3 pick in the past and how that pick or selection has paid its dividends or lack thereof. So it's going to be
Not
interesting to see
ideal.
with
Yeah.
exactly. Nothing against the gentleman that they took it. I think it was it the second or fourth pick last time? I can't remember. But they took a defensive lineman. They didn't know what he was, either an edge or an interior guy. They took him, and he of course is moved on to bigger and better things. Um, so my anticipation is I'm hoping they don't make the same mistakes. But if they do make the same mistake and wasting on a defensive lineman, I will be in the background just chuckling like. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. It's also interesting to see what they'll do with Jimmy Garoppolo from now leading up until draft day and through the draft. Because, of course,
Man,
like any organization, Dane, they came out immediately after the trade, or at least I think
he's
the
our
last few
guy.
days said, we're not trading Jimmy
they,
Garoppolo. He is our
they
guy.
said,
You know?
you know what it almost reminded me of? When they say cheating on you is the last thing I'll do. And that's like the very last thing to do is cheat on you. It's like they said, we have plans for him. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like,
Right.
he's gonna be the center, the cornerstone of the franchise, or we're gonna use him to drive up his value in the next few games and then trade him in week 6 or something like that. Like, what is that supposed to mean? So
Right.
Jimmy G,
Because we've
wait, I think he has a
seen,
no trade clause. Do he have a no trade clause for this year or next year? Or was it this year? No,
I'm not
I can't
sure,
remember. I've
but
looked it up. Sorry.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say you've seen like in the past, like if you're drafting a quarterback at 3, say they draft the best quarterback available at 3, you're
Mm,
not drafting a quarterback more than likely to sit a year, more than definitely not 2 years, maybe a year. But if you're drafting a quarterback top 5, you want him to play as soon as possible. Um, and I'm not sure
mm,
Jimmy G will want to be in a position where he knows he's out the door. Like, give me an opportunity. I led you guys to the Super Bowl one, but give me an opportunity to go play for a place where I know I'm the starter for long term. I know I feel comfortable here.
man.
You can lock me up long term. So we'll see how it plays out. I thought that was interesting for them to automatically come out and say it, and yet they're going to all these other quarterback pro days. They're trading up for the 3rd pick, so it's kind of playing a little chess and checkers by the 49ers organization there.
Gotcha. No trade clause. He can't be traded unless, of course, it's a number of teams that he agrees to be traded to. So he ain't
Okay,
going nowhere unless he agrees
right.
to, which is
Right.
smart,
So
which is
more
very
than
smart.
likely, it would be a
I
team
love
where
that.
he'll be starting, a team where he
Hmm.
get a chance to compete for a championship. So yeah, that would make sense. I think
Absolutely.
I think if we don't see a trade draft day, probably during preseason and
Hmm.
in camp, that you might see a deal go down. I
We'll
wouldn't want
see.
to see because Jimmy G is how old? Like he's still maybe early
He's
30s.
still he's considerably young. Football years,
Yeah,
he's still position wise as well. He's still a young guy.
right. And
as a
being
30
young,
as a 30-year-old talking here. See how
right. You
old
don't
this
want to be a
dude is.
quarterback like mentoring your
God
replacement
dang!
at the age of 30, right? So
29 years old.
yeah, there you go. You don't want to be a 29-year-old mentor quarterback to a guy that's going to replace you. Like you don't
Nah,
see that. So I
nobody wants
see
that.
right somewhere in the future these guys are probably going to work out a deal. And as you mentioned, the no trade clause is going to work out something, a place where he can go and get a chance to compete. But the 49ers weren't willing and dealing or done willing and dealing, Dane. They got a little sneaky and hit up
Sneaky, you
the
say?
called Philadelphia up on the line and excuse me, not the Niners, the Dolphins. It was the Dolphins. Called the Niners on the line and traded that 12th pick and their 2022 first round pick for the Eagles' sixth
Yeah,
pick.
look, I know a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fans, and it was such a joy to my heart seeing them so pissed off and mad at the fact of the possibility of getting a Devonta Smith or getting a Kyle Pitts or you're getting one of those nice number one receivers. It was fun watching them be tormented like that in the comments. But honestly, it could be a win-win for them. Not only that, because their history of drafting, in the top 10 hasn't been that well. I mean, call it what you want, but the whole Carson Wentz thing didn't work out the way they wanted it to. But on the positive side, you get multiple first round picks next year. And this draft is going to be,
Right.
with all the quarterbacks that we anticipate they're going to be drafted in the top 10, it's going to push some of that talent all the way down. And they'll pick 12, so they'll be fine. They'll be great. You got those
Right.
2 picks next year. I think it's 2 picks, two or three first round picks next
And
year. Was it two?
well, I'm so mad. I'm glad you brought that up, but I'm so upset because I saw a tweet that said they could get another first round pick from the Colts if Carson Wentz plays to a certain
Gotcha.
par. So yeah, I can't
Let's
remember,
be
but
real. Let's
there
be
is
realistic here, guys.
okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That man ain't playing a full season. I'm sorry, but history has shown that
Behind
this man is.
behind behind the Colts O line though, got a good O line.
Offensive line, I mean, is only half the problem. Well, never mind. You go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hey, say what's on your
I'm just
chest.
gonna let things play out the way that they
Okay.
will. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who your offensive line is. If you can't decide to get the ball out of your hands, and especially when it's predicated on quick route patterns and things like that, if you can't get the ball out of your hands quickly, then there's only so much blame you could put on the offensive line. And then, of course, running yourself into so many sacks, it's not a good lick either. But he's got a fresh place to start, a fresh new place to start, brand new number, brand new scheme, well, a familiar scheme, if you will. So
Mm-hmm.
here's the hoping that it all works out for him. But I don't think we've seen the end of Mr. Carson Wentz. But I don't know if I were a betting man, I wouldn't bet to say that they're going to get an additional first round pick because of his play time that he's exceeded. I don't think that's happened, unfortunately.
Right. I mean, that's a smart move, or like it's sensible to think that because obviously he hasn't finished the year healthy the last couple of years. So we'll see. I think the combination of the Colts offensive line, though, at least will keep him upright more than he's used to seeing.
Oh
So
yeah.
that could play in a possibility to that.
Shout out to
Last
Quentin Nelson one time.
Yeah, Quentin Nelson holding down. Last week, we asked Marcus Spears about what he thought was the biggest offseason move, and he told us that he thought the Matt Stafford move to the Rams was the biggest move. He's always been in Detroit. Always,
Yeah.
Detroit hasn't always had the top tier teams, but Matt Stafford has put up numbers. Take Matt Stafford, put him in Sean McVay's offense with the weapons around him and that defense. He has them going to the NFC Championship game. And what we
Mm-hmm.
won't dive into off-season questions until maybe next week, a little closer till we get to the draft. We do have a lot of free agents left.
Right.
Dane, you had tweeted a while back about. I know you tweeted a long list of like receivers
Wide
in
receivers.
particular that were available.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of them have signed since then, but in
Most
your
of them are still
opinion,
available though.
oh, they're still available. Okay, cool.
No, not all of them. Just saying some of them are still available. My fault.
Oh,
Go ahead. My bad,
okay.
brother.
No, I was just gonna ask you, out of the guys that are available now, could be receiver, could be a defender, safety, quarterback, whatever. Who do you think is the best available?
Hmm. You see, Deonte, that there is a tangled web we have here. Who's supposed to be the best available? I would assume is Jadeveon Clowney. Um, we we're all aware of the talent that he was when he came into the league, but it hasn't cashed out the way it's supposed to by now, and that's okay. The NFL is home to plenty of second opportunities and third opportunities and fourth opportunities. But to answer your question, I don't know. I guess it just all depends on the teams that need something, or what type of team needs some sort of depth, or what type of team needs some sort of veteran leadership, because that's all you're going to find at this point, or this late in the season, or this late in the off season. It's not late, but it's like most of your tier one guys and tier two guys have pretty much inked those deals, and right now I don't know. What about you? What you think?
Yeah,
Excuse
I
me.
I go with Clowney just because. I mean, he's I feel like he still has a lot left in the tank. He's 28 years old. He's proved, well, maybe not the last few years that he can stay healthy, but at that age, I mean, he's one of the youngest guys that are still available, and we've seen in the
Right.
years past that he could be a freak on the field, causing havoc. I think a team like
Injuries.
Cleveland that has Miles Garrett coming off one
Mm.
end, and then if you have like Clowney coming in on the other end on passing situations, like if you're an AFC North quarterback, Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger that doesn't really or really can't move, that's gonna be havoc. So I think he did visit the Browns not too long ago, but um, I think pairing him up with another significant pass rusher, I don't think
Right.
uh, maybe like Denver. Denver doesn't really need another pass rusher, but like have like a team with another dominant pass rusher, maybe like the
Mm.
Rams with the Aaron Donald that can cause havoc up the middle. Maybe they could take a look at him. Like I think he would feed off of not being able to be double teamed, and a team that
Mm.
has a guy that is a serious like number one D lineman on that
Right.
team where
They
he
can
doesn't.
attract attention to two.
Right. So I think a fit like that. I mean, he's still 28 and still showing flashes even when he was with Seattle. So I'm a roll with Clowney on that one.
That was a little difficult to answer right now. If we were to answer that question or ask that question maybe like a week and a half ago, we might be able to shell out a little bit more conversation.
Yeah,
But that one just seems like the dead giveaway, you
right,
know. So
right.
we apologize to the viewers that feel like we just we're not disagreeing or going back and forth about anything. It's just hey, yeah, these guys agree about everything. It's not the case.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I know we might
look,
disagree
I
on this
hate,
next one.
look, I hate this guy with all of my being, but we have to agree on this one, man.
I got you. I got your favorite conversation coming up next, bro.
Is that right?
Yes, NFL going from 16 games a week, or excuse me, a year. 16 games a week is insane.
I'm like, damn.
When you playing
kind of
3 games a day.
kind of AAU tournament is this? You know how much death would be associated with that? 16 games in 1 week,
16 games a week, man. This is getting
but the
crazy.
revenue.
16
I mean,
games,
you get up in the middle of the night to get a glass of water. At 2 o'clock, you go turn on the TV. There's gonna be somebody
tri-
playing.
everybody playing triple headers a day.
It's
No,
ridiculous.
but the NFL has decided
Um,
to go to 17 games. Your thoughts, Dane? I already know you're ready to open up the book
it's
and
dumb.
break it down.
It's dumb. Put it this way: it doesn't make any sense. Why would you put this uneven number on the books? Two, we're not sure if it's sustainable, the profit, or we're not sure if it's sustainable over a 2 year period based on how drastically the cap is going down from this particular season because of the pandemic. Another point, this doesn't make any sense because you got to think about all the record book changes that are going to happen at the end of the season. Granted, one of those games is going to be one of those games where a lot of the starters aren't going to be playing. That's one thing. But you're always going to have the bottom of the division dwelling teams that are going to be chasing stats at the end of the season, and a lot of that stuff is in jeopardy. Like, how do you move forward? Let's say this is the first time we changed the number of games being played since what, like 74, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, 72 or 74. So it's like
Hmm.
all the greats that have played in the NFL, all those records that have seemed like unattainable, now it seems like that goal is being, the goals are being moved to be like, now you have a chance to,
Right.
rush for over 2,000 and 49
I
yards in
didn't think
one
about
season
that.
because there's an extra game. And then not and then on top of that, it's like, what about the players? Like, we know this benefits the owners. It's an extra few, a few $1 million in their pockets. But it's like, at some point in time, we knew that 16 games was too much. So much so that everyone was very relieved when the preseason was pretty much canceled, right? So essentially, what they're
Right.
doing is doing away with one preseason game, just having three preseason games. But still, you're asking the probably the top, what, less than 1% athletes in the world to add on one more game and probably one of the most violent games that we've seen, or no, Christ, the most violent game that we've seen in our time. Like that's asking a lot, and it just speaks to just how crappy this players' association is for even agreeing to something like this, or allowing themselves to be strong on by ownership. So I don't like it. I hate it for the
I
players, but
think it
at the
was
same
something we.
time, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think it was something that you kind of saw coming. I know there was rumblings about it months ago, and then they just
Yeah,
struck that deal with all the big networks, ESPN, ABC,
yeah, the
CBS,
TV deals.
Amazon for the TV deals and packaging. We've talked about it a lot on this podcast for months about the different revenues as far as how the NFL is going about, making up for this season where, they probably lost more money than they ever had before. And not saying this is one of the reasons that they're doing this, but I think it plays a part into the fact that they're trying to create more revenue, trying to figure out ways to do that kind of thing. And of course, the players putting their body on the line for another game where a
Yeah,
dangerous game as we've seen over the past few years, life changing, life altering injuries. Players aren't down for it. Specifically, Alvin Kamara was one of the first players to come out and tweet how he thought it was dumb. Um, and I think I think they still have to vote on it, but most all the reporters and media are saying that it's gonna pass. So, and it's gonna
yeah,
start
it's already
this
a done deal,
upcoming season, and they already have
which
the
is
teams
stupid.
planned out they're gonna play. And I mean, at this point, it's just um,
Stupid.
yeah, it's
And you know
it's
the
very
worst part about this, Deontay? The worst part about I don't think this is the tip of the iceberg. I think this is just a gateway to get to an 18 game season.
ooh, what makes you say that?
17 is just such an odd number. It'd
Uh,
be different if they invited the 17th game and they give everybody a second bye week. Still 16 games. You have two bye weeks now. It'd be different if that was the case, but this isn't that. This isn't that. This seems like it, I don't know. 17 just doesn't sit. It's just weird. That's just a very weird thing. But I can only imagine. I can only imagine. But we'll see. We'll see.
yeah,
18 games.
it's
Put my
very
money on it.
it's very telling, like because we got through it. We just got through a season, and we spoke with Marcus Spears about that as well, as far as the way they managed it or whatever. But it was a tough season to get through, and then to jump from the tolls and the toughness and the hoops and hurdles that everyone had to go through to get this season completed, to just jump to a 17 game season. The season directly after that one is kind of a big jump. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. Um, but we'll figure out what happens as far as injuries. I mean, it's always an extra opportunity and chance for something
Next
bad to go
man
wrong.
up.
So we just hope it doesn't lead to that. We talked about the Niners trading up for the third pick. That second pick belonged to the New York Jets, and a lot of analysts, mock drafts seem to believe that Zach Wilson out of BYU will be that guy selected. You and I went back and forth through the messages talking about Zach Wilson. I feel like
Oh yeah.
he's a legit. I feel like he's a decent, legitimate quarterback, and you not so much.
Not so much. Look, here's the thing. We've seen the arm talent, we've seen the athleticism, we've seen the can do winning nature from a lot of these quarterbacks that are coming out of this particular draft. We've seen that. And of course, because of this, the way this media works is you get one guy's season. I have this theory: there's one guy's season that gets propped up and elevated just because of a nice little throw against air. And this year, it just happens to be Zach Wilson. We've seen the way that this man played when he sees a legitimate defense. We've seen that, right? And I'm not this. This is my take. This is Dane B's thoughts. But there is nothing that Zach Wilson is going to be capable of doing if we're seeing Sam Darnold out there running for his life, a seasoned pro at that. Now, granted, we don't know what Sam Darnold is, right? But at what point do you have to try to continue to build around what you have there before you willing to throw it away and try the same exact thing that you thought you found the first time. They got they drafted Sam Darnold from USC, and I remember seeing the little Photoshop deal they had on the newspaper about him being was it Broadway Joe, or not Broadway Joe,
Like Joe
oh
Namath, Broadway Joe.
yeah, Joe
Yeah,
Namath.
right.
Yeah, I'm tripping. Broadway Joe. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
tripping. I don't know why what I was thinking. Okay, but I was like, okay, you a lot of news or a lot of cities they get a little ahead of themselves with the superlatives early, especially that one. But then you do the same thing with this guy just a few years later, and it's like, at what point are we going to acknowledge the elephant in the room? Like, maybe you're not that good at
Tell
this whole
tell the
thing.
audience what you called it though, and that's why had to back Zach Wilson up. You called it something.
Oh shoot, what did I call it? Damn it.
You said Manziel hype.
Oh yeah, the Manziel level hype. Yeah,
You said
we all
Manziel.
remember
I
the
had
the
I
man.
had to for our listeners. I had to defend Zach Wilson because what we saw. I mentioned what we saw with
And,
Johnny
and
Manziel
And I
was
wasn't
so
comparing it to the maturity of
yeah.
Johnny Manziel. That's a whole
Okay.
difference. I don't know anything about Zach Wilson off the field.
Yeah.
However, we
Okay.
we saw how everything played out in Cleveland, and that could have very well been Dallas. It could have been Johnny
Yeah.
Manziel to the Dallas Cowboys that year. But the thing about it is we've seen this type of hype machine get behind a player and it end
Right.
horribly. And you hate to see that. You
Right.
hate to see any type of pressure being put on any type of player. But this is the nature of the league. You get drafted in the top 10, or correction, you get drafted in the first round, there's already high expectation of you. And you're a quarterback. That's even more so. And then you're going to the New York media.
In New
Listen,
York. Yeah. Yeah.
the New York media, I hope this kid is ready because he is going to be expected to turn water into wine. Like, so we gonna see. Hope the best for him. But if I'm a betting man, I'm gonna say this thing is gonna end up the same way. We're gonna look at 4 or 5 years from now, and they're gonna be looking at the next, top five quarterback that they can Photoshop on the front of the New York Times, whatever magazine it was that I saw that.
So I agree with you to a point that if you put a quarterback in a situation, um, like a bad situation, you're setting them up to fail. I think they're
Yeah.
doing it a little different with this if they decide to select the quarterback, which a lot of people think they do. I feel like they're going to give him more of an opportunity than they did with Sam, and they have a new coach, defensive-minded coach that's putting a talented defense together, coming from the Niners, Robert Salah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Adam Gase shouldn't have been a head coach again for this team. I think putting
No.
Adam Gase on that team was not ideal for the team. Obviously, not ideal for Sam Darnold. The guy's not head coach material. So I feel like we would kind
The
of see
guy's a scrub. He can't play.
he can't play. But I think putting I think the situation would have played out differently had it have been another head coach there, not Adam Gase. So I'm not gonna say they would go to the playoffs, but they wouldn't be
Right.
picking at top of the draft. So I think
Look,
it'll
they wouldn't
be
have fumbled away Trevor Lawrence, is what you're saying.
agree
Because ain't no
exactly
way that shouldn't have happened. You should have never put your team in a position to lose that number one pick.
right
Now, up, yeah, go ahead, I'm getting ahead of
right.
myself.
I just think having a defensive minded coach that I think is ready
Mhm.
for the big time. They hired Adam Gase after he had got fired from the Dolphins. So what does that kind of tell you? Like, that's just not
That you can
something
only
that's
go
going to
up.
work.
That you can only go up.
Like exactly. Like the next
One
guy has to
dumpster
be
to the
better than
next, right?
what you've seen the past few years. So I think I don't think we'll see a jump for the Jets to go to the playoffs, but I think putting Zach
Mhm.
Wilson in a position where he can succeed with a coach that is, ready for, well, we don't know if he's ready. I, in my opinion,
Hope
think
he's
he's
ready.
ready to lead this team to success way better than what they had before. So,
Hmm. It's a fair analysis,
yeah.
my boy.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we were talking about draft guys, and
Mhm.
for the past few years, the audience that don't know, Dane has always been one of the guys that always
Love
find
draft.
the sleepers. Dane loves the draft. He finds those
Look, I
guys
love it.
that everybody's not talking about. So every week from now until the draft, Dane is gonna have his own segment where he breaks down
Oh man.
one sleeper from the offense, one sleeper from the defense. And you know what? I'm hearing for the first time with you listeners what the name of this segment is going to be because Dane has not told me yet. So, Dane, you have the floor, my guy.
I got you. So without further ado, you've seen your general managers, your owners, your scouting presidents and such. You've seen them make their moves, but now it's my turn, me, General Homeboy, to help you find these sleepers. Okay? So, and here's the thing. I don't find the sleepers, Deonte. The sleepers, they find me. You understand? So
Yeah,
we're gonna
I
go, we're
love
gonna
it.
get this thing, we're gonna get this thing cracking right off the bat. First
Let's get
guy,
it popping.
let's get it popping. First guy I love because he pretty much is not gonna have a position when it comes to the NFL. But it is no other than from Washington, Elijah Molden. So they had a pretty decent or interesting secondary setup or defensive setup there in Washington with a 5 DB set. Sometimes he was playing in the nickel, sometimes he's playing in safety, and of course he's obviously, or not obviously, the best way to make the team in the NFL is by special teams. So that's gonna be a given. But you got a guy that's very instinctive. He's got really good ball skills. Pause, and he has plenty of anticipation. So there's plenty of opportunities. I'm not going to pick on him. I'm not going to pick on him too much, but if you really want to see a really good game, go ahead and check out that BYU game. You can see him all over the field doing his thing. If you're a defensive
And
guy,
playing against a
this is
top
one of the
quarterback.
exactly, or so they say. So you'll see that. I'm not going to spend too much time on him because his film will speak for itself when you see him. Second guy, offense. Plenty of people know this guy. Deonte, you might know this guy. He comes from university that wears green in Texas.
Mm.
We're talking about
Mm.
North Texas.
North Texas.
Jalen Darden.
I knew you
Jalen
were going to do me
Darden.
like that.
So yeah, I had to build that up to make you think that it was one way, but it's the other way. Jalen Darden. This guy is about 169 pounds soaking wet, holding on to a loaf of bread. But that if you need somebody that's electrifying, if you need somebody that can run all the routes on your route tree, somebody that you want to get in open space, that is your guy. I like to call him a poor man's, or not even, I'm not going to disrespect him like that. I'm calling him a diet Miko Hardman, okay? Because he's lightning in a bottle. You get that boy a screen, give him a reverse, you get him a stop route. It's must see TV every time he gets the ball. So Deonte, ask me, what do you and what do you and this gentleman have in common? Just go ahead and ask me.
What do I, Deonte Epps, host of the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast, have in common with this guy?
I'm glad you asked that. Deonte, in your primes, both of you guys were touchdown scoring machines. This man had 19 touchdowns last year in one season. Okay. Now, of course, people are going to say, well, it's because he wasn't playing in a big power five. He wasn't playing in this. I get that.
Of course
But a
they would.
touchdown is a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Touchdown's a touchdown, especially when you turn on the tape and you see this man. Specifically, I would like for if this is your first time hearing about this young man, the best thing you could possibly do is turn on the tape, YouTube, Middle Tennessee, or I think it was UTEP, and he went off. Great variety of routes he was running. You got bubble screens, you got stop routes, you got comebacks, you got go routes, you got drags, doing the whole nine. But electrifying guy. I'm really rooting for him. Of course, since he is undersized, he is gonna, probably gonna fall to, second day or third day. But whatever team gets him, they're gonna get a nice guy. He's solid. He's fast as hell. I should have led with that. He's fast as hell. Well, obviously, when I said the guy Miko Hardman comparison, that was a dead giveaway. But
Yeah.
you turn on the film, you're gonna know exactly
Right.
who he is. And this is I'm gonna end on this note. If you are a defensive back and you're somehow listening to this podcast, you have a moral obligation every single game to identify the guy who is wearing what jersey number, Deonte?
If you're a defensive back, number
If
one.
you're a defensive back, exactly. You always look for number one because that more than likely,
Yep.
95% of the time, that's going to be the best player on the team. And of course,
That
it
guy's
just so
fast.
that brother's blood. No, yeah. So that guy is fast. So I mean, he's gonna whenever you turn on the tape, you'll see he'll jump off the screen, but he's gonna make you miss. But that's my wrap up. General Homeboy signing out.
I love it, man. General Homeboy, every episode until the draft at the end of next month, Dane. I love it, my guy. On to the nerdy news.
Nerdy news.
All right, so episode
Lord,
2, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Oh,
man, say.
man, okay. We gonna wrap. We gonna wrap. Okay,
Yeah, rap,
Falcon and the
rap.
Winter Soldier, right? So
All
episode
right.
1 for those that okay. Spoiler alert. I'm going too fast.
Spoiler: if you ain't seen an episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you do not need to continue with this
Nope.
podcast.
Nope.
Okay, Deonte,
Nope.
take it away one more time. Tell him one more time before you say anything.
Spoiler alert. All right. So everybody's gone that didn't listen to the episode. Now everybody that's here, listen to me.
Yeah.
This show is incredible already, 2 episodes in, because they're doing something that the MCU has never done before. I mean, they did it with WandaVision, of course, with everything they did, but this show is already so relatable. So freaking relatable, man. I'll start with episode 1 a little bit, and then we'll just wrap back and forth. So this show, if you don't know, is set 6 months after the events of Avengers Endgame. And as you know, at the end of the movie, Steve Rogers gives the shield to Falcon. Sam Wilson. Sorry, his name slipped me. And so episode 1 picks up right kind of maybe a few days after that, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So
I'd
they're
assume the same thing.
Right. So they're at the museum honoring Steve Rogers for everything he's done for the country. They didn't say whether he was dead or not. Notice they just said he's gone. But Sam decides that he's not worthy enough to be Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America. He's not Captain America. He gives the shield over to the government, and they're gonna. Well, we assume that they put the shield in a museum.
Right. That's the assumption.
Right. That's the assumption.
But it appears we've been hoodwinked.
We've been hoodwinked. We'll get to that.
Tricked.
We'll get to that.
Yes, of course.
It dives into a lot of character building. We switch to Bucky, and he is talking to a therapist about everything that he's gone through in his life, and the therapist that seems to be government issues. I'm assuming like the government gave him this therapist to.
It's part of his plea deal.
Right, part of his plea deal with the Sokovia Accords. Right, the president pardoned him with everything for saving the universe. I'm assuming with Endgame. I think it's really interesting how, and you can do this in a show rather than a movie. You could dive more into the characters because it's episodic, but diving into who he was, like there was an interesting line, Dane, and I wonder if you remember from episode 1 where Bucky had said he had spent the only time he spent not fighting in a war when he was in Wakanda for a little time. Other than that, he's always been fighting, whether he was like under Hydra control or not. He's always been fighting, and so I was like, man, that is true. So like he's finally not fighting, but at the same time, he doesn't know what to do.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know what civilian life is like. He has no idea. There's a lot of parallels between what we see right now. What we've been seeing for the longest is when our troops are guys who have, blood, sweat, and tear overseas to protect the freedoms that we hold dear to our hearts. When they come back here, they're still trying to assimilate. They're trying to get back into some sort of normalcy, and I'd imagine, or no, I can't imagine how complicated that is. And we're seeing Marvel trying to show us that this man trying to transition back into civilian life, and he's still having to deal with those ghosts in the closet. And the one thing that stuck with me is it sucks because this man was literally woken up, brainwashed, and sent to go kill. And he's literally sitting in the passenger seat of assassination after assassination after assassination. At some point in time, that takes the toll on your psyche. And right after he's done with his mission, he comes back and they put him right back on ice. So it's like
literally a weapon.
For decades and decades and decades, he's told this is what you're here for. And now, at the drop of a dime, he he doesn't have that luxury of being, brainwashed. Well, I wouldn't say it's a luxury. He has the luxury of not being brainwashed anymore. Back to you, Deonte.
Right. Right. And so basically at the end of episode 1, the government has a new Captain America, and this guy that looks like a budget, great value Captain America. And we
Yeah,
find out in
we
episode
got
2.
we got Captain America at home. That's what that is.
I want some McDonald's Captain America.
We got McDonald's at home. We got the Greek value off brand,
Yeah.
the
We
Hilton
find out
off
later in
brand.
episode 2 that his name is John Walker. And so that goes directly into episode 2 as far as introducing this guy, former captain of the football team, former
Yeah.
sergeant, whatever, captain in the military, U.S. Army. He has all these accolades. They give him the big Captain America rollout, as I put in my notes right
Mm-hmm.
here. And it's funny to me because it's like I feel like they would do something like this in real life as far as,
Yeah.
man, how can we make this guy the most likable character? We'll put him on Good Morning America and we'll give him a HBCU band. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm
It's
saying?
it's funny as hell because it's Marvel/Disney's way of mocking how these entities do. They try to pander to black people. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's get them in a Sprite commercial and throw some hip hop in the background.
Yeah.
That'll get them. And
I swear.
it's the same thing they did. They gave him a
That-
black partner. They had an HBCU marching band coming through there, and it's like, come on, y'all. But they played it perfectly. It set it up to where
yeah.
you hate this guy's guts before you even know what he's about. They did that perfectly.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah,
That
take it
that
away.
was the
Yeah.
first thing that came to my mind.
Oh, like, come
Yeah,
on,
bro. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like,
the,
man, they
the
think
banana
they
in the
slick. I was
tailpipe.
like, aha.
That's just great writing. They knew what they was doing. They knew what they was
Yeah.
doing. Oh
Right.
man. Okay.
Right. But in episode 2, they get a little deeper, gets a little, more into the realism as far as mirroring what is going on in the real world. We see go ahead, Dane.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
interrupt you for 1 second. We ain't get to talk about this, but it pissed me off. And again, spoiler alert. My man went to go in episode 1. My man went to with his sister to go try to get a business loan, little
Oh
small
yeah.
bank loan,
Yes.
and he was
Yes.
denied. And it immediately brought me back. I was like, wait a minute, we just watched the WandaVision. Well, this man is basically a mannequin with an Apple Watch for a heart. He got a whole plot of land for his, for his future wife and future family. And this man, he's like less than 3 or 4 years old, and he was able to do that, but we can't get the brother of a business loan
Wow.
to help get the boat off the ground. I was like, come on, bro. I
I
mean,
ain't
it
even link
kind of,
those two
but
together. That's crazy.
it
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah. I was like, wait a minute now. This don't make no damn sense. Anyways, I don't know if anybody who's been through the house buying process. I mean, it's a headache and a half, but the hoops and the qualifications you got to get to even to get something. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Vision has the hookup somewhere at the Bank of America and they hooked them up with a spot. But I don't know. But it just was like, come on, man. The brother taking the L again. But it's just
Right.
again, that's Marvel kind of highlighting not only just the plight of this guy being black, but just the idea of him being a veteran and the difficulties they face with even something as small as getting a small business loan. So again, I needed to touch on that before you went to the meat and taters of episode 2.
That's
so
the perfect. Yeah, perfect segue, my guy. Because in episode 2, they dive even more into the racial undertones of everything in the MCU and how it mirrors the real world. Bucky introduces Sam to Isaiah Bradley through the comics. We know, but for those that don't know, he was the first black Captain America after Steve had. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dane. After Steve went on ice, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man.
So we find out in the show, we don't know necessarily how he got put in jail, but he got put in jail for 30 years after serving as Captain America. So I'm sure we'll dive more into that. But
yeah,
we're kind of gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the racial undertones.
Maybe we get some flashbacks or something.
Flashbacks maybe, but there's something that happened that put this man that was Black Captain America per se into
Yeah.
jail for 30 years, and then right after
And I
that,
think it was like in the comics, I think he either stole Cap's shield or he like impersonated Cap. I can't remember what
mhm,
it was, but it was. I should have looked this up. I didn't even think to look it up, but my bad. My bad. Apologize
uh,
for poor research. But
you good, bro?
yeah, we about to see them hop into it, and of course, it gets into
Yeah,
the illegal experiments that are not only done on humans themselves, but specifically targeted with a lot of black people. A lot of black people
right.
use skepticism and distrust with the healthcare system
Yes,
because of some testing, some unethical things that took place back in the day. But that kind of surfaced with
yeah,
what Isaiah said, which is kind of like, oh shit, they really going into this, like Disney, Marvel, they
right,
really throwing some slugs at the
right.
government right now, like some
Yeah,
real stuff.
and
So
then probably the most telling scene that mirrors what's going on in the world today after they come out
yeah,
of Isaiah Bradley's home. They're walking
man,
in the street, and the Baltimore police show up and basically ask Bucky if this guy is bothering you, talking about Sam.
yeah,
And Sam's like, "No, I don't have any ID on me. What I like, basically, mirroring how, you
yeah.
know,
The harassment,
way too
the harassment.
often blacks get harassed in America. So it's just a little taste of it, but it was real. It
Yeah,
hit close to home,
it's
So
subtle. It's small enough to you get the idea, or correction, it's big enough for you get the idea. Small enough to not take your whole attention off the plot of the entire episode. So it's like, damn,
yeah,
we just seen him witness the trauma that Isaiah had, and then him step outside, and bam.
right.
So
Hit with
it's
more.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just it's all sorts of messed
And
up.
a lot of
Like
people don't like when stuff in the real world combines with what they think is pleasure or leisure and stuff that they
yeah,
like to watch as far as this Dane. But for us,
not everybody had
seeing
no, but not everybody's fortunate enough to be able to escape from stuff like that. Some
right,
people have to.
how does that make you feel seeing the MCU dive into real world issues like this?
One, it made me it made me appreciate them trying to touch on that topic itself, because it's a real thing. And then two, it kind of made me like, you know what? They're gonna catch a lot of heat for this. From one, from people who don't want to see that on the TV. It's like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I get pulled over by the police too, and I'm okay as long as you comply and blah 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 blah. You'll get that. And of course you'll get, excuse me, which you can't blame. You get a lot of people, a lot of black people who are, that have are triggered by that type of stuff, seeing that in their media when they don't want to, because it just brings up, just it's that's an open wound that won't be closed for a long time for a lot of us. So that being a trigger for a lot of people, I can see how that could go wrong and rub a lot of people the wrong way. But I think it was subtle enough to be like, you know what, we're aware of what's going on, and we want to dive into this as an issue, some shape or form to start a dialogue. So shout out to them.
Right. And I mean, people that don't want to see it, they're going to be even more upset because there's more projects down the
Yeah,
line where you're going to have gay characters, bisexual characters. And I
yeah.
mean, if you don't like it, you just don't watch it. You know what I'm saying? So
Keep
I
it
really
moving.
enjoyed this episode. Keep it pushing, man.
Yeah.
One thing I did note, Dane, and tell me if I'm diving into this too much.
What's that?
When we find out that Sam, not Sam, Bucky knew
Hmm.
a previous Black Captain America and they fought. Do you
Hmm.
think that's why he was okay with Sam getting the shield from Steve? He does that little head nod at the end in
Yeah.
Endgame where he's like when Steve pops up from time travel, he does his little head nod.
Look,
Like
him and
he,
Sam look at each other
yeah,
like,
he tells him to go ahead. I was
yeah.
like, oh, like that
I
brought me
think
back to that moment.
I think you touched on a good thing, because we're seeing that 50 years ago or 60 years ago, when Isaiah was deemed, Captain America to take up the mantle, America wasn't ready. And then we're seeing now in the present where Sam thinks America isn't ready, so I'm not gonna do it. But Bucky's like, no, it's time. Like, I am, 100 and what, 110, right? 100, no.
8, something like
Oh,
that.
he's old. He's
Yeah.
old. I've been around here long enough to know that it's time. This needs to happen as a, like, as an ally. This needs to happen. And not only that, but he's reassuring. He said this: if you turn down this opportunity to not only wield a symbol of what's supposed to be, hope and freedom and justice, if you turn down this symbol, then that means Steve was wrong about selecting you. And of course, he said, if he was wrong about you, then he's definitely wrong about me because you're
Right.
as innocent as they come, and me, I'm guilty as charged. So if
And
he's wrong
I've
about
done
you,
all
he's
these
definitely
terrible
wrong.
things in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't his fault, he's completely brainwashed, but he still carries that guilt, that burden. So
Right.
I think that's his way of saying, like, of seeing more in Sam than Sam sees in himself, or Sam is willing to accept. Which I understand. He has to go through a period of acceptance or these stages of I guess denial that
Yeah.
he is supposed to be the new Cap, but I guess it just comes with those expectations and knowing that society probably won't accept him the way that they accepted Steve, which is normal for anybody in that circumstance to try to go through those different stages of grief. Well, not grief, but stages of, I don't know what you want to call it. Somebody's got the right phrase or word for it, but I can't figure out the right vernacular, if you will, to say to match that particular phrase. The right
Right. Just
jargon,
getting
if you will.
past,
Yeah.
I would say, like getting past certain situations and stuff like that. But man, episode 1 and 2 definitely hit close, and I'm sure they're gonna dive more into that. We got Zemo coming into
Yeah.
the fray next episode, so it's gonna get even
Ooh,
more legit,
how they
more
gonna
fire
pull that
coming
off?
from Marvel. I
How
don't
they
know,
gonna get in
man.
there? How they gonna do that?
I don't know.
Like,
Maybe they can get government clearance. Well, they're not working for the government. I don't know.
right.
I don't know.
Somebody's gonna. I think we might get a special guest appearance this next episode because somebody's gonna have to come through with a major pull because they not finna break into one of the highest supermax prisons
Yeah.
in the MCU to spring this dude free. But we know that he's gonna be
So
free
who do you
because
think
of
it's
the
gonna be?
trailer. It'd have to be somebody that's up there. I don't want to
Ross?
say maybe
General
Ross
Ross?
or well, no, he's supposed to be dead. So I was gonna say
That's the only government guy that they've introduced. Maybe it might be a new
I was gonna
character. Who
say
knows?
Fury. I was gonna say Fury, but Fury is supposed to be dead to the world, so that's not gonna work unless it's some sort of scroll or something like
No.
maybe a scroll.
Could be.
So I don't know. Could be Ross. I don't know, but that would be interesting because Ross was trying to scold him at the beginning of Infinity War when they escaped from getting killed out there in the train
Mhm.
station.
Yep.
And when they came back, he was like, Roddy, arrest those fugitives. And so
Right.
I don't know. Might be some hard feelings there. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll definitely see coming up in episode 3. And Dane, I love this podcast, bro. We back at it once again.
For
For
sure.
the listeners, we're coming every Tuesday, man. Every Tuesday on your way to work. Every Tuesday if you get off work,
Yeah,
open
could
up
do
your
your lunch
phone.
break if you have a
Yeah,
lunch
even
break.
your lunch break. Just open it up. Put your boys in your ear. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Here
but we're
comes the
coming.
brand new flavor in your ear.
We're coming live every Tuesday. In your phone, waking up.
Well, you said that you from Baltimore. You said we coming live every
We coming
Tuesday.
live every Tuesday. No,
Tuesday.
but every Tuesday you can expect new episodes from the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast. Of course, you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and all your other DSPs. Dane, you got anything you want to say to the listeners before we get out of here, my guy?
Man, nothing much, man. Just make sure you drink your water every day and wash behind your ears, and you good in my book.
Continue to be
Um,
safe, healthy, wear your
yeah,
mask, all
do,
that good stuff.
do that. Because we're trying to get out of this pandemic. I don't know about y'all, but I'm
I'm
ready for
definitely,
my kid to socialize with other kids, and
yeah,
you know, y'all handle y'all business because we handling
yeah,
ours. We staying in the house. We don't be doing
yeah.
none of the extra stuff.
I hear you, my guy. I hear you, my guy. For my co-host Dane Beasley, I am Deonte Epps. You can listen to all of our episodes on any digital streaming platform or our website, www.theduosportsandstuffpodcast.com. We out.